Super Smash Bros. Is one of the most fun game series to discuss, and a fun topic of discussion is the hypothetical idea of, if you had to cut the roster in half, or into a quarter, or whatever have you, what would it look like? Which characters are the most important to Smash Bros. And or gaming in general? And today I'm gonna figure out the opposite, because I'm a quirky little guy. I'm restricting myself to 8 characters, because that's how many are unlocked from the very start of the first game, and just putting that idea out there into the world is the disappointment of the century, especially when Ultimate's roster is 10 times as big. It's perfect. For starters, I looked through the characters in and adjacent to the Mario franchise. I understand that most, if not all, these characters probably make even the least bit of sense being in the game, considering Mario is by far the most recognizable face in the crowd, but just in case, I wanted to see if I could find a character that would fit in the unfit. And you can call me the Correct Brothers, the way I stuck the landing, or you can call me one of the gay pirates from the Gay Pirate Show, the way that I docked to the conclusion with ease. Haha, double entendre, say what? Or should I say Doc Tor Mario? Uh-oh, cliche line coming up. Now, you might think I'm crazy for putting Dr. Mario on here. You might be like, what? But he's basically Mario. He shouldn't count. Go kill yourself, BROJANGSTER. First of all, harsh, but fair. Not gonna take your advice, though. Second, Dr. Mario is one of my least favorite inclusions in the Smash Bros. Series, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks that. He's very emblematic of clone characters, especially the pre-Echo Fighter clone characters, like before we were okay with them hanging around once they started branding them as inferior. You know, like segregation. But it's okay, these characters aren't real, they're ones and zeros. Love, hate. You could make the argument that the Dr. Mario series is around a C-tier Mario spin-off series. I mean, Mario Party never had a mobile game that shut down relatively quick after release. They certainly can't brag about that. But with all these other Mario reps that are also playable, Dr. Mario is just the icing on the cake. And the icing tastes like boogers and sauerkraut and Tylenol and stethoscopes. I considered adding Piranha Plant. That thing's probably an honorable mention, but Pee-Pee's at least more generally recognizable and acts as a representative for the smaller Mario enemies, or as Stampy Longhead would say, googlies. I wonder what that guy's up to nowadays. You think he's still British? Like, my dad loves Mario 3, and he's gonna look at Piranha Plant and be like, oh, good heavens, it's you, my boy. How have you been, buddy? I'm way less certain that he's played or even remembers Dr. Mario. One look at that guy, and my dad's gonna say something like, oh, an Italian doctor? So they'll just give a PhD to anybody nowadays. I'm kidding, I'm sorry, Dad. Ultimately, my main reason for including higher education Mario over here is because I'm imagining myself playing this hypothetical Smash Bros. Game. I unlock Dr. Mario, and then a few hours later I unlock the rest of these goofy fuckers, and I'm like, where's the real Mario? That's why I'm doing it. It would just piss people the hell off. Sakurai would acknowledge the Mario series and then leave out Mario. Funniest thing since Pickle Rick. Okay, so as I alluded to, Dr. Mario is the representative for all the clone characters. Oh yeah, him too. But I also got a few choice words for this one as well. Who the fuff is this guy? I claim to have a borderline autistic encyclopedic knowledge of video game history, and for the longest time, Richter was the only character whose Smash reveal left me going, well, I said it earlier. Who the fuff is this guy? I know. Say you're not a Castlevania fan without saying you're not a Castlevania fan, but like, who even is nowadays? Those games are for old fogies. JK. I understand that Castlevania is a well-respected retro series, and there are those spiritual successors that are probably setting, I don't know, a few 100,000 people on fire. Not too shabby. Simon's inclusion definitely makes sense. But I kind of get the feeling that a hardcore Richter fan, if that subspecies even exists, blackmailed Sakurai or something. Like, who was even asking for that blue guy? The other one's working just fine, thank you. Maybe I just need to play Rondo of Blood and or Symphony of the Night, and then I'll realize he needs to be on the opposite list. But just based on recognizability, I didn't know the guy until he was already in Smash, so he's too obscure. Because, you know, my perspective is all that matters. The world revolves around me. It's BROJANGSTER's world, and we're all just living in it. Screw Richter. I hate you. Go to the gas station and pump gas into my car. It's waiting. Next, I thought about a character or characters who are synonymous with being in Smash more so than their own franchise. Captain Falcon came to mind, but he and his catchphrases and his raw sex appeal are so ingrained in Smash Bros. Culture that he honestly seems like a legit perfect fit under certain specific criteria. You could also say the same thing about these guys, but If you want to argue with me about this, you can make like Snoopy Dogg and drop it. Drop it like it's cold, like ice. Ice Climber came out nearly 40 years ago. It hasn't stood the test of time on its own. As a bit of an homage to the NES era, or maybe as a joke, maybe a combination of the two, and or some other reason or reasons, Poo Poo and Nanoland were brought aboard the Super Smash Bros. Melee train, or maybe a pirate ship. Yarg. Since then, the community has embraced them for some reason. I never really understood the hype. I didn't like playing as them in Brawl, and then I learned about Ice Climber, and then I learned about their cult status of sorts, and then I was like, so people like them because they were in a bad NES game? True story, I said that verbatim. I was 9 years old. I was sharp as a damn whip back in the day, and the day was 2011. People were trying to justify how they could work on the 3DS, because, you know, if 4 Rosalinas and 4 Lumas could fit on screen, you know, 2014 was a crazy year to justify being a crippling, friendless goon. People were legit pogging at their return before pogging became synonymous with the alt-right, and I don't want to associate with that lot. That's probably on me, though. I've mellowed out when it comes to things like video game reveals. When Sora was announced to be the last character, I reacted like, hey, there he is. It's the guy. He made it after all. Good for the people who played his games, I guess. Oh crap, am I in a saw trap? Everybody says that Smash Bros. Is a Nintendo Hall of Fame of sorts, and by that logic, Ice Climbers barely meets the criteria to be on the bubble for a spot on the game, let alone actually be included. Come on, guys, what were you thinking? If the thing from Clu Clu Land was added 20 years ago instead, and it didn't come back for the game after Ultimate, people would be like, what the heck, everybody? It's the thing from Clu Clu Land, yeah, you know? Bert. For a while, I've had this idea in the back of my mind for a modern Ice Climber game. Like, what if they gave them the Kid Icarus Uprising treatment and created, out of nowhere, just this groundbreaking, acclaimed game that becomes a personal favorite of a lot of Nintendo fans? Until Nintendo steals that idea and has a reason to include them in the next Smash Bros. Game for marketing purposes, these siblings, who probably kiss each other on the mouth, are going on the piss list. Let's talk about Fire Emblem. Yeah, tell me if you've heard this one before. Too many fires, too many emblems, get them out of here. Fire Emblem is one of Nintendo's most unexpectedly huge franchises. Awakening came out in 2013 as a make-or-break moment for the series. It sold like gangbusters, and with that success came more games and more opportunities to include the characters in Smash. There were already 3 character inclusions for the handful of games that came out before Brawl, and after Smash 4's run, if you include Echo and DLC fighters, the number doubled to 6. Okay. I guess Awakening was just that good. And then they added 2 more in Ultimate. I remember hearing Alpharad make the point that the big draw of Fire Emblem is the characters, so that's how they're getting represented, like how Zelda is all about items, and that's where a lot of the representation is allocated for that series, and that's cool and all, it makes sense, but do you need 1 or 2 characters to represent every single new game in this still relatively niche series? So anyway, you might know where I'm gonna go from here. Corrin is one of the 8 Fire Emblem reps, and his or her game is very well revered, but only on opposite day. On the list you go, dingbat. Also, yeah, despite how well revered Three Houses is on every day besides opposite day, Byleth's announcement as the 8th Fire Emblem character was an infamous moment for Smash fans who are also fans of variety. And especially the fans who pre-ordered the Fighter Pass. My lordy lordy. Luckily, famous little blue furry boy Arlo hates variety. Isn't that right, Arlo? Don't you love Byleth and Smash?
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Never mind, gotta include Byleth. I always do what I'm told by Arlo. I also think it's very indicative of the current state of the full roster to include 2 Fire Emblem characters. Like, it's hyperbole, of course, but we all like to joke about how it feels like 40% of the character select screen is Fire Emblem BS. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Terry Bogard's up next. Say you're not a South American without saying you're not a South American. Terry's inclusion is fine. I'm sure a lot of Brazilian kids or Argentinian kids or... oh man, what are those other countries down there? I'm sure they got really giddy and played a couple games of celebratory football when their favorite guy, like he's just a guy, got added, but if other characters like Mega Man or King K. Rool got axed instead of him for the next game, they'd probably be like, "Que diablos? Esa elección no me sienta bien si soy honesto. Oi, oi, oi!" Trust me, I've lived in and only in America my entire life. I know what I'm talking about. I don't mean to come across as xenophobic or anything, because I know a lot of people took things too seriously and made a big stink about Terry's inclusion, which is why I'm being way more careful about what I'm saying here compared to what I said about Richter, but international appeal should definitely be a factor into who deserves to be in a limited roster. But for the opposite reason, Terry's perfect for this opposite list. A challenging thing about weeding out which characters to pick, and I mean challenging, this is like the SATs on crack. Ugh, such a difficult thing to do, is the fact that most of these characters are the playable protagonists in their respective series. You know, the box people. And the ones who aren't playable are iconic supporting and or villain characters who are there alongside the main character. And then there's the Noodle Girl. Did ARMS actually happen? I don't even remember anymore. I kid. ARMS has its fans, and I'm sure it sold decently when it launched. But my guess is that it wouldn't have sold nearly as well if it released after the first year, but that's just a game theory. Regardless of ARMS' success and its staying power and the Nintendo fanbase zeitgeist, or lack thereof, it does make sense that they would want to put a character from this big first-party unconventional fighting game into their other, but one of those kinds of games. So I say bring it on, Nintendo. Give me Spring Man, Ribbon Girl, Strong Bad, Pajama Sam. Oh yeah, I forgot it's her. I got nothing against Min Min, but I also got nothing to say in favor of her. This is more than likely a case of Nintendo regretting not putting Spring Man or Ribbon Girl in playable roles in the game, so they had to go with, I guess, the third most popular character. She's a niche character in a niche modern game that's too recent to be classic and too old and relatively underappreciated to be hip and cool and Riz and Kai Cenat Phantom Tax. Simple as that. You know, we've really gone on a journey with these 7 friends, haven't we? But like all journeys come to an end, and that's a quote for the gravestone. I've saved the worst for last. Actually, that's a lie. I think Richter might be the worst. Like, imagine a Smash Bros. Game where Richter's the only playable character. That would sell, like, less copies than Croncord. Probably Palutena. My mom told me to never trust a girl with dyed hair. Here you go, the Smash Bros. Roster that's guaranteed to get Masahiro Sakurai fired. Take a look at this character roster and tell me you want to play this Smash Bros. Game. I dare you. You probably can't. You can't bring yourself to do it. I dare you to post a reaction video of you reacting to this video in a transformative way while also crediting me in the description. And in that video, I want you to tell me you want to play this game. Also, I want you to comment that same thing in the comments. And also comment whatever you want related to the video. Maybe comment your personal Smash Bros. Mount Rushmore or opposite Mount Rushmore. Maybe comment and say that you like the video. Maybe some video ideas. Maybe try to get a running joke started, like a running BROJANGSTER related joke for the sake of BROJANGSTER lore or something. I don't know. Maybe say something like bup bup bup. Also like and subscribe and share and post this video to relevant subreddits and print out QR codes for this video and post them all around your college campus and tell your friends about me. Unless you're too chicken. Mwahaha! You fell into my trick. Bye, guys.